we're hiking the Camino in Spain, and we thought we'd share a few lessons we've learned from our first couple of weeks here in Spain on the Camino. How about that? Where are we in?
Yeah, we are in the middle of Spain. I'm not exactly sure where we are, but we are walking the Camino, and this is a little bit different video for us. For one, I've got quite a beard, growing.
Your hiker
and buen
face.
Camino is what they say on the Camino.
Yeah.
And
what is the Camino? I think we should, in case people don't know what the Camino is.
What is the Camino?
It's a life-changing experience. It's a trail network that basically is in Spain, but you can pick it up in many places in Europe. And basically, it's a bunch of different trails that go from different places in Europe to Santiago de Compostela, a large cathedral in Spain. Traditionally, it's been a route that pilgrims have done following the bones of St. James, getting to the cathedral in pilgrimage and in prayer. Since then, it's become all different things. A movie called The Way came out about the Camino. The famous and most popular and most traditional version of the Camino is called the Camino Frances, or it's also known as The Way. That's what we're hiking. A lot of people start in the Pyrenees in Saint Jean or Saint Jean, and then walk all the way to Santiago. We actually started in Logroño, Spain, and we've been hiking for a little while. And this isn't our first Camino.
It's not our first Camino. So we did this a couple of years ago in June. We walked the Portuguese Camino, and we walked up the coastal route going from the south to north to Santiago. And it took us, I think, about 14 days we did that of hiking with some rest days built in there. At this time, we're taking a little bit longer.
Well, we also did the Camino in Japan.
We did the
Komodo in Japan. If you do both of them, you become dual pilgrims. And it makes people, I think when we say we're dual pilgrims, people say, oh my God, you guys are really into the Camino. You're like real pilgrims. We're not. We just happen to be people who like long distance hikes. And the Camino is a nice way to do a long distance hike that's well supported and well signed and easy to do without having to pitch a tent or camp or anything. We can actually be in a bed every night. So that's why we like the Camino so much.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you would think that we would know everything about the Camino, but we kind of learned 5 or 6 lessons on so far. Maybe we'll have more by the time we're done on this Camino. We thought that we'd share with you. So
well, before we go on, this is Chris. I'm Steve. We're EatWalkLearn. We've been traveling the world for over 3 years now, and it's in September, and we've got beautiful weather. And we are hiking across Spain and thought we'd share some tips with you.
Yeah. So tip number 1, this is the one you really cherish. That I speak Spanish.
I guess that could be our first tip is if you're in a country where they speak another language, it's very beneficial to be able to communicate with the locals in their language. And I understand Spanish. I'm still learning. I've been learning it for years. I just don't feel comfortable speaking it, and especially with locals. And Chris is, I think, much more fluent in Spanish. Not only can she talk very, eloquently with the local.
Eloquent is not how I talk.
But I
communicate.
She cracks jokes in Spanish, and she really gets along. But I think that's a huge benefit.
Yeah, but you don't have to speak Spanish in order to be able to walk the Camino. I mean, we've met Koreans and Japanese and Germans and Danes and Dutch, and a lot of those people speak English as a second or third or fourth language, but sometimes they don't. And somehow we all manage to eat and sleep and make our way. But if you speak, especially when we get into these real rural areas in Spain, Spanish is definitely helpful, and it's been fun to be able to speak Spanish.
Yeah, and it hasn't been too frustrating for me. Again, I can understand it. I can pick up conversations, and I can kind of get a few words in and practice a little bit. But definitely, Chris has been able to do some things that have been an advantage. So one example is we needed to call ahead to some hotels to see if they've got storage for bicycles. We're going to be picking up bikes in Burgos in a couple of days. And, I call on the phone and I can kind of get my point across, but I'm not really quite sure that I got it or not. They're like, come on. And so I hand the phone to Chris, and she, within 2 seconds, it's confirmed, no problem, we got it. And so it makes it.
Yeah,
makes
but
the
if you can
communication a lot better.
if you can reach people through WhatsApp and type what you need on WhatsApp, that's definitely a tip and something we've learned. WhatsApp is definitely, and here comes a bus of other pilgrims who maybe got a little tired hiking today that took the bus on a second. Anyway, if you can WhatsApp the hotel owner or whatever, even if it's in English, you might have a little better chance of getting your communication across.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, so the last time we did the Camino with our friends on the Camino Portuguese coastal, we booked ahead. We had a hotel every single night. We knew our plan. And so this time, Steve said, let's wing it.
We were booked ahead like months ahead.
Months in advance.
Like 3 months in advance. We had all of our hotels booked and knew where we were staying every single night. This time, we wanted to be more, spontaneous and Camino style. And like, we hear about people who walk until they get tired and then they just pop into a town and say, hey, do you have a room? Great, no problem. What we didn't expect is that September, the time that we're hiking it right now, is the busiest of the whole year. And it's because the Camino is getting more and more popular. There's been a real strain on rooms, on places to stay.
Yeah. So because of that, it forced us to have to walk almost 25 miles one day, that's more than I would ever want to do. I mean, that's almost a marathon. And hiking, not just walking. And it because of that, we ended up overdoing it. So tip number 2, book ahead. Tip number 3, don't overdo it. I mean, we kind of got in the situation we had to overdo it because I ended up with blisters, which then makes tip number 4, take care of yourself, hard. We have had to slow down. We have had to put more brakes in. We have had to just have me kind of amble my way through taking care of these blisters. My blisters are fine. I know how to take care of them. I mean, if you have a blister tip, please put them down below. I'm using Compeed. It was just stupid on my part that I felt a heat. I should have put something on it. We were tired. I just wanted to get to the hotel. I didn't take the time to take care of the blister at the point that it started. Since then, I am now paying the price. Yeah. So anyway, don't overdo it.
Yeah, and it's so be a little bit more, again, be flexible, have alternative plans. Don't think you have to be so rigid. Plan ahead. So now we were forced to actually make, booking our hotels ahead and making sure that we've got something 2 days, 3 days, 4 days from now. So we're not scrambling to try to figure out a place to stay.
And we're using a combination of apps. We're using both the Buen Camino and Camino Ninja and Buen Camino. Those 2 apps together are really helping us figure out our distances, the route, and how to find hotels.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're wondering how to do things, those apps are great. You really don't need those apps to help navigate. I mean, it's pretty. The entire trail is well posted. You're not going to get lost for lack of navigation. But those apps help you figure out how far things are and where hotels are and where food are. So that's helpful.
Yeah. And one of the little things that I realize is that the apps really underestimate how long it's going to take and
tip number 5 or 6 that we're on. That apps lie, or I don't know. That apps don't. Their kilometer is not my kilometer.
Yeah, the apps say that it's going to be 10 kilometers, which is 6 miles. And you think on an average walking pace that should take you 2 hours. There is no. I mean, we are calculating. We're both estimating it with our watches, with our tracking our steps, and we're walking way more than the apps or the
and I'm getting way more steps in than what the apps would ever tell me that I'm doing. So
and the first night,
add probably 10 or 20%, I would say, to each distance.
The first night, the hotel operator showed us a map, and he told us that the distances are not right, and it's actually more. Add more time for this, add more extra time for that. So we were aware, but still. Anticipate you're going to be walking longer than you think you're going to walk.
Yeah. So we've been staying in a mix of hotels and albergues and so on. An albergue is a traditional place that people stay when they're on the Camino. It's kind of dorm style living, and a lot of times they're run by the local municipality, and it's very cheap. Some of the beds they go as cheap as €5 or €6 a night, and they go up from there. A lot of people who do the Camino, they do stay in the albergues because they're cheap. They bring along a set of sheets or a sleeping bag or a sleeping pad or something. Right. You do get a bed. Sometimes you get a blanket, but it's very bare bones.
Yeah.
We haven't been doing that per se, but we have in some situations because it's so busy. We have had to stay, not had to stay. We've chosen to stay in the albergues because they're available, and it's also a great way to meet other people that are on the Camino, and you can have communal meals with them, which is really, really cool.
And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to do this. The traditional Francais route is that it's the most popular route. It's the one that most people do and most people think about when they think about walking the Camino, and which means you have other people that are on the same route with you that you're seeing all the time, and having a lot of social time and a lot of interaction, meeting people from all around the world. It's really delightful to have conversations and meaningful conversations with people who are coming from all different areas and all different reasons that they're walking the Camino. But there's more people. And because there's more people, there's a bigger demand for rooms.
And one of us might snore. And so being in a big dorm that has maybe 15, 20, 30 people in it, you're probably not going to be the only person snoring, but we need to acknowledge that perhaps one of us snores. And so we learned a little bit of a lesson. We went into an albergue and we had booked 2 beds, and we asked them if they had a private room. They didn't advertise that they had a private room. Well, they did. And so they sold us the private room. It was just a single room that had 2 beds. I think we paid maybe €10 more because it was a private room. And we slept there, and it was great.
Yeah.
The next night, we went to another albergue, and we asked if they had a private room. And they said, we don't have a private room, but we have a dorm that has 4 beds in it. We'll sell you all 4 beds, and you can have the dorm. And we took it. But then afterwards, we're kind of like, oh, we don't know if ethically that was a really good thing for us to do. We know that it's hard to get rooms. We've just now taken 2 beds from people that maybe they're going to have to walk extra long like we had to do because they can't find a place to sleep. So I don't think we would do that again, that we would buy. Because, the beds were like €6 or €7, and to buy 4 of them is, we can do that. We're able to do that. Some people can't. And we feel like flexing that kind of privilege maybe isn't in the style or the spirit of the Camino. Yeah. What we did find out later is that our albergue was not sold out that night, so we didn't take any beds from anybody. But if the situation were to occur again, I think we would pass on that.
Yeah.
Even though it'd be nice to have our own privacy and so on, but not at the expense of someone not being able to sleep in a bed.
Yeah. And she told the manager at the albergue that I snored like a bear.
I never knew I was going to have to use oso, my vocabulary, my Spanish vocabulary.
And I don't know a lot of different animals in Spanish, so I turned around and called her a perro, which is perro, which, if you know Spanish, means a dog. And
it's a good thing you didn't say perra, because that would be a bitch.
That would
which is a female dog.
Yeah. Anyways, so
she laughed, and she made a sound of a dog, and it was funny. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I learned how to use. Who knew I was going to, from that dialogue back in 2nd grade where they were talking about bears in the Spanish dialogue class, that I was going to use oso in my vocabulary today. Who knew? Anyway.
Yeah.
And those are our tips. So we have many, many tips from having walked the Camino, but it was really kind of fun to learn some new things on this 3rd time of the Camino that, everybody says walk your own Camino and you learn your own lessons. And we're definitely learning a set of lessons that we didn't know we'd have to learn. And here we are learning them. So anyway, buen Camino. We'll see you next week.